who don't have any idea what I'm going to do.
I'm Coulter Wonka. I'm already in 420, damn it.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. Yes, we are live, absolutely live. And if you are experiencing a little bit of deja vu, yeah, that might be happening. We'd like you coming to you live from the lifestyleradio.net, and we'd like to bring you a very special guest tonight. Mr. Matt Mernagh is joining us, and yes, I did make this announcement already. Al is away this week, so I am flying solo. He is away celebrating his 33rd wedding anniversary, so congratulations and happy anniversary to him and his beautiful wife, Gail. Enjoy your time off, Al, and we'll try and take it away for you without breaking it up too badly while you're gone. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Matt once again to the show. Hey, Matt, how's it going, man?
Great. It's going. Guys gave me a chance to smoke a joint, get a couple more joints in me, and make sure I got my supply. I'm kicking back now nicely on my furniture, so I'm good to go. Yeah, I'm ready for when you are.
Awesome. Just before we had some bit of technical difficulties and got started once again, we were talking 420 a bit, how much work goes into it, but I mean, we didn't get a chance to touch on how much fun it is.
Oh, it's I mean, everybody knows. Even if you don't know, it's unfortunate, but like, it's the people compare it to Christmas. I mean, on the retailer side, if you own a head shop, at least I know in Toronto and other areas where 420 is heavily celebrated, it's busier than their Christmas, Boxing Day lead up to Christmas sales. So it's a huge day, and I think people need to make that aware that this day,
Lifestyle Radio.
because of the efforts of the Hash Mob, which I was the coach of, I guess, and yeah, because of because of those efforts, we see it. I mean, like 420, when we started, I think our first one was 2003.
Yeah.
Niagara Falls 420 smoke. There was a 420 smoke out. And it's just been ever since. If you look at the history now, and it's quite epic. It's how things have gone. It's a great legacy when I look back on it. So I'm proud of it from that perspective. And this year, though, it's new for me. This is my second year of not doing 420 organizing, so that's a big change for me.
Yeah, you went a little bit of a different route. We'll get into that and a lot more later on to the show, but your focus has changed over the course of the last couple of years as well. But while you still do take part as well at the 420s, and I love to see that you still engage, and we can still count on you for somewhat of a colorful lead, shall we say, to many of our marches.
Yeah, even that. I mean, like, I didn't lead Global Marijuana March last year. I probably won't do it again this year. We're not marching out of Vapor Central this year. So a lot of kind of my advocacy in terms of leading the street fights, I'm leaving it up to some other people that seem to think they know what they're doing, and they're agitating for a lot of stuff. I feel like, well, if you have a dispensary, why is the guy who doesn't own a dispensary leading the charge? Like, like that. Like if you have a dog in the race, I guess they would say you have an interest to make sure this comes out a great day.
Yes.
Whether it's 420 or the Global Marijuana March, and I'm always curious to see the next generation, and I would like to see them pick up and do more, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. I mean, we've been at this for a long time. You longer than most. For those who may be painfully unaware, I have no idea who. But if you're out there and you don't know who Matt Mernagh is, Matt is a longtime patient and advocate for cannabis rights, cannabis laws. You fought the courts and won, so to speak. You made history, you forced change, you forced evolution in the MMAR, you forced things to be viewed differently in Ontario and Canadian government as a whole. Tell us a little bit about that epic case that was. You're just celebrating the anniversary for that.
Yeah, we just celebrated the 7th anniversary of R.V. Myrna. It's good to look back. I feel like I say a successful constitutional challenge. I mean, on the one hand, you could point out that we didn't overturn the law as we had originally envisioned, but I didn't really make those promises before. When people do these cases now, have grandiose visions, and I kind of did it quietly. If you look back in history, it wasn't until after the win that we started to talk about ourselves, not before we did anything. You kind of have to have court dates. You have to have trial dates. You have to have things set. Even then, the first round, you got to wait for your win. And I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm challenging." Especially there's a big mouth out there who was shooting his mouth off quite a bit. And ended up pleading guilty. You know who I'm talking about, Mr. Prince of Pot. You shot as a white male, I'm a white male. I have the most opportunity to do something.
That's right.
I've seen it in the courts where people are like, "Oh, I don't know if I've seen privilege." I'm like, I assure you, the white guy who is 38, 39 years old, going to court without representation was well respected by the court. I don't know if that would be the same if my education was different, if I was a minority, but I can tell you I saw and experienced firsthand differences. And I guess I was in a Toronto court once where a defense lawyer couldn't identify her client in the galley. It was like that packed full of people, right?
Yeah.
And under her breath, and her back to the judge, I shit you not, to this day, she uttered the words, "They all look the same to me."
Oh my God!
I'm presuming
system. And
I'm presuming this defense attorney meant that all these criminals look the same, but I was pretty certain that it was a racial remark, right?
Yeah. We know where that was going. There's no question. I don't care what they plead to.
Right. So I've seen it. We don't have I've been on the other side. I've been in jail. I've seen Indigenous people. It is weird. It's like, where all these minorities come. I don't see this many minorities ever.
Yeah.
Right. It is weird. It should make us feel uncomfortable. It's until we do it. So it's fortunate to look back.
Your stand is that you're a white guy. You had the best shot at success, so you took a stand for everybody.
Also, Kim, I had no money. Absolutely no money. I got, not only did I take a shot, I went and I took a shot at getting a grant. We hit home runs throughout the whole thing. So here is, if you're a dispensary owner and you got a fundraiser, go fuck yourself. Because you should have been, now there's a few people that I respectfully say it doesn't apply to, but there's a lot of people out there, if you're fundraising, looking for cash because you can't afford a lawyer, guess what? The reason you charged extra on top of your prohibition prices was you were supposed to be saving for a lawyer to fight the charges.
That's
and
right.
We're not seeing that.
Yeah, and they're bringing in the money. Don't tell me these dispensary owners aren't bringing in the money. There should be no need for fundraisers on their behalf. Now, unless there are some extenuating circumstances, okay. But on the whole, if you run a dispensary, you've made enough money to pay for a lawyer.
Well, especially if you're in the media saying you were giving money away by the handfuls.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the money to fight a court case. You have the money to constitutionally challenge the law. Everybody thought you were going to do it, and you didn't. That to me is like, really?
Yeah.
I did it. I had no money. I didn't own anything. And in fact, the room I'm doing this interview in my office, one room out of this house that I now rent the whole house of, I lived in this room because it was a rooming house. Like, I literally rented this room, and I started my life over again after getting busted in this one room. I now rent the whole house.
Yeah.
And of course I rent out rooms. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you have an opportunity to fight this, and your whole shtick, your whole gimmick, your whole marketing is fighting law, and you cave, I have very little respect for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all know exactly what you're talking about there. There's many that agree, there's many that disagree, but there's going to be people that fall on both sides of this fence, and there's going to be people that sit right smack dab in the middle.
Well,
so
I mean, the nice I've had lunch with the lawyers. I've talked to the guys. I mean, like, I don't know. I could never plead guilty myself. I could never tell a judge, oh yeah, what I did was wrong. I am sorry. I apologize to the court. I am guilty.
Yeah.
I never felt guilty that whole time I was in the court system for 5 years. So looking back, it's nice to look back at legacies like 420, the court case. And the court case ultimately, you know, good or bad, depending on how you feel for it. But to me, the privatization of this MMAR was the appropriate thing to do. It just is.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Since then, the evolution continued to take place and continued to evolve and wound up into the ACMPR, evolved once again several years after your case.
Well, because of Allard, right?
Yeah, because of Allard. That's right. You know, I mean, we've seen it continue to evolve. Now we're on the horizon of the nationwide legalization platform, should it come to be ever in the House of Senate. What do you think of the platform, the way that they're voting on it now?
The bill that's before the Senate right now, I have a very good, intimate familiarity with. I've studied it extensively. I've had an incredible amount of resources versus what I used to have at my disposal. So that's been great.
Yeah.
To study and to learn these things. I'll keep my finger. I mean, I think a lot of people panicked when it was like stuck. They thought it was going to get stuck in the Senate that one day, and they're bringing in senators to vote. To me, that's just like, I've been a journalist for a long time. That's just the drama, right?
Yeah.
It's just making it exciting. I'm trying to get a ticket to the Senate on June the 7th for when that bill is going to get voted on. So
Cool.
my work would be flying me out for the day just so I can be there to watch, because you know, I feel like I've had a pretty big hand in moving the government in this direction. I know a lot of people who voted for it, the Liberal platform, thought that they just thought what they were doing was going to be legal. I never thought it would be. I never even said it was when the Liberals were campaigning.
Yeah.
I think people are just caught off guard with it, and we're thinking of themselves first and not thinking of the big picture. Maybe they didn't have the experience that I had going into it, but this is everything. I could have predicted this to a T. I could have wrote it down, you know, like you couldn't have got a better plan. Like, Ontario is going to create a government-run system. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. BC, Alberta. I mean, let's put it in perspective. And provincially, like, so we talk about the Senate, that's a given. Let's go down how I'm at. I'm at municipal. Every province has a Liberal government except for two, except maybe Manitoba is conservative. So How is it, Kim, that two new Democrat governments, two socialist, communist, you know, political parties decide to privatize the sale of cannabis?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, the way individual provinces are approaching this, it's going to be problematic. It's already going to be problematic no matter what. But I'm more worried about the federal laws and whether or not they're going to be passed as is in the reading now. I mean, that's got to get bounced back to the courts just the way they're written on their face, no matter what the provinces do.
No. Not in the least. I think this is I find it hard to make a charter challenge. I've talked to lawyers around it. You have to have access to medical cannabis. After that, Melmo Levine says the government can prohibit basically anything. They could wake up tomorrow and coffee could be prohibited, right? The government has that within their prerogative. Where I just don't see challenges coming. Like anybody that thinks, oh, we're going to challenge again. Like, really? They're only building a better system. Like, every time they only build a better system, right? And any grassroots challenge, I hate to break it to people, and I've spoken to Paul Lewin extensively, but this is some of the stuff we have when we have lunch, we talk about is that any court challenge any lawyer puts together for a dispensary is only going to benefit an LP or the industry. Guaranteed.
You think?
Right? Oh, 100%.
You're gonna have to explain that to me, but we'll go more in depth for that for sure. But I think we're just coming up on break time, if I'm not mistaken.
I will explain it after your break.
Absolutely. We'll get into that and so much more when we return from our commercial break. We're going into some bumper music. We're going to hear feature music from the Killing Time Band, I believe, a song called It's Always 420. So since it's feeling 420 in 2 days, we figured this would be an appropriate song to play at this time. So stay tuned for more on the Pace Radio Show on lifestyle.net.
Hey, this is Cheech.
And this is Chong.
And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio. What is it? Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time.
420 Radio?
Ooh.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio. You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
True North Seed Bank has been Canada's most diverse cannabis seed source for years, and now we are proud to announce our brand new storefront right beside our friends at Medicine Wheel Natural Healing. All of the same freebies and sales we offer on our website will apply in the storefront as well. Join us for our grand opening at 8986 County Road 45 in Alderville on April 20th. The first 100 customers will receive a gift bag, including a Canuck puck with their purchase. There will be 420 burgers and 420 hot dogs for free, and lots of other fun giveaways. There will also be live music by Cale Crow, and all kicks off at noon. Take this perfect opportunity to celebrate 420 by visiting the new True North Seed Bank storefront in Alderville and get ready for spring while celebrating with us.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing, not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as a daily medication, or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reefer reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with cannabis and coffee with Tamarawana. Then tune in and catch Pottawa with Russell Barth, who calls himself the world's angriest pothead. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and joint host Kim Cooper and Alicia Yashishin. No week would be complete without tuning in to Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show featuring Al Rapp, and the 420 Radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at lifestyleradio.net or at our sister site, 420radio.ca.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net. We can also be found live on Spreaker. This evening, we're joined by my guest, Matt Mernagh, who's with me from, he works, well, how do I address you, Matt? I don't even know what your title is anymore. I mean, you're a grower, you are an activist, you are a teacher, you are a writer, you are a podcast, you're a journalist. You have so many titles.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that was all, like, those are things I've done, and then those are the things I do in the past. I mean, one, I'm not here on behalf of work, so I think people need to be fully aware that nothing I say is in relation to the Kronos Group or any other venture properties. I'm not here to talk about the Kronos Group or my day job as I'm their education specialist. Just so people know, I educate people about medical cannabis and cannabis, the laws, market research. So I think if you call our client, you know, I think that's Matt the best way to put it.
Matt
education. Yeah, it's a great gig, right? It's going to potentially lead elsewhere. I don't think the company I work for is doing anything nefarious in the world because I know what's going on. I get questions. So it's a company that I'm comfortable working for. The issue is, of course, I'm not allowed to kind of speak on their behalf or anything. That's not part of my job. So I'm just here for me. But I can talk about the industry and legalization and where things are going, and we can do stuff like that. But the day-to-day stuff, basically tomorrow's I have a full day training workshop to, for new hires.
And you're really busy with your latest gig, also teacher for grow classes at a brand new grow place that's happening in the market.
I do the Hotbox homegrown. I teach a class there. So, I mean, like, this is a great evolution. You mentioned everything that I've been involved in. It ultimately has led to just being an educator, because we're really missing that in the cannabis industry, the cannabis space. They talk about education, but usually you get people who want to do the education that have less than a year or two experience. I think you should be more sitting on this side of the class here, buddy. So you always got to wonder about that. But on the Hotbox homegrown, I mean, I've been teaching classes there since January. They go every Thursday night for 2 hours. There are 4 classes a month, and they're fantastic. I love teaching growing. We learn all kinds of different methodologies of growing, low-stress training, topping. I follow the plant from basically seed to harvest. I teach you everything you need to know to get started, to pulling a personal crop. We keep it easy, simple. The last class, oddly enough, the last class I'm doing before summer break is this Thursday, so it's tomorrow. Nobody will have a chance to sign up for that. But I'm encouraging everybody that can hear me outside the area of Toronto to come join me for weekend-long intensive courses that'll go all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they're designed for people who are more out of town or simply can't do, a weekly commitment in town.
Right on.
And
Make a vacation of it. Like, come visit, grab a space, and come and spend the weekend and learn and to grow.
Right. You'd have a cannabis experience all weekend. The idea is, Friday night we're going to have a student mixer, so meet students, meet myself. It's also taught by my friend Ashley Athill, who does the Tuesday night course, which is going all summer long. So if you can't take my Thursday night class because it's no longer happening, because I do baseball umpiring for Little League, feel free to take. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Another personal Matt thing is, like, I'm doing a lot of other things in life and focus totally on weed, which is nice.
Yes.
I encourage. So basically, the Weed Ender is it's called. It's Ashley Athill, Matt Mernagh presents the Weed Ender with Abby Roach. It's at the Hotbox Homegrown right in Kensington Market, and it's designed for out-of-towners like yourself, Kim. We've looked at, so you'll have a class that goes from 11 to 1 o'clock Saturday morning. And then you have a 3-hour break in Kensington Market, a 3-hour break next door to Hotbox where you get a free pass. And then you come back around 4 o'clock to do a 2-hour session with me where I do another class. So that's, 4 hours of learning each day, Saturday, Sunday.
With a nice little med break, there's all kinds of food and shopping available in the market. And then, of course, the Hotbox Cafe and the lounge in the back and the outdoor patio in the summer is just simply fab. What a great space to be able to spend the day in.
Yeah, it's an amazing space to spend a weekend in. And I think having a class to kind of center yourself around and give you an activity out of, it's not a big commitment. It's 4 hours each day, and you'll have the rest of the time to explore the city, especially Saturday night, Friday night too. And I just think it's a cannabis experience, and I'm selling it as a cannabis experience. You're going to learn how to grow, I assure you. Every one of my students sends me photos of their grow now. It's awesome, right?
Oh, excellent. Little babies to be proud of.
Oh, my students are the best. Some of them, I've had people that are very new to cannabis decide right away they love it, and they're like, screw this buying cannabis, I'm just going to grow it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of that, and I'm really happy with the student success that we've been able to have. It's well beyond the Marijuana Grow Bible, which I've contributed to. It's a lot of the tips that I've picked up because I've known growers. I've been growing 20 years, so I've picked up tips from, Redbeard, from Remo, from all these guys from being in there. I've stolen from the best people.
You got them all, do you?
I know all your tricks and every little tip that you've ever had. If you've told me, I know it's in my catalog. It's and that's how growers are. There's a lot going on, and I really hope people. So this is me giving it all back and just and helping people the same way and
so
things
has it
like.
Been reprinted? Have you expanded on it? Is it how does that work? I didn't know did you re-release?
Well, I contributed. I'm talking the Cannabis Grow Bible. It's the same publisher as my book, the Marijuana Smoker's Guidebook, but the Marijuana Bible, Cannabis Grow Bible by Greg Green. Some people may know Sean Brady. He contributed to it. I pitched in a little bit here and there, some photos. David Strange, people may be familiar with him from his years at Skunk. He contributed a bunch of photos, and I guess tying it back into work. A lot of the photos in that grow are from the old Peace Naturals facility. So anytime they show you a really big facility, and you can look at the side of the photo, I'm like, that's my facility. Because we're proud, right? Like we're proud of our work, and we wanted to show people what we're up to. But it's funny to look at it now and just be like, whoa, we don't do any of that now. We're like a lot more advanced.
So evolved. I mean, in such a short period of time, things have evolved. I mean, everything has changed, especially on mass production.
Well, yeah. I mean, like it just seems like everybody wants to build a million square foot greenhouse.
Yeah.
You're gonna have like pretty much there's a fight right now. There's a fight at the top. There's probably going to be 6 big licensed producers, the 6 big boys, or girls, however you want to do it. But it's mostly, as I'm told, white male, so I guess we call them big boys.
Yeah.
And then there'll be all these other players. But I mean, I could divvy up the market. I know so much other things that's going on. It's quite fascinating. I think anybody who is panicked about the licensed producer industry really hasn't thought it through. That's how I feel at this point. I'm talking to more people these days about micro production facilities that own MMR grows. Some of these guys are telling me like, oh well, I got a 15,000 square facility, and I'm like, you're a licensed producer, buddy. You're not a micro production craft, nothing. You are a major commercial producer of cannabis at 15 to 20,000 square feet. That's where it begins. Hate to break it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
sure.
A lot of people think that is where the preferred future is through, however many micro grows and smaller industry getting in over rather than these huge ones. People are gravitating towards smaller.
I mean, those people, to be truthful, I mean, you're going to have to work with a licensed producer. You're a small shop if you want to set up a legitimate micro production facility, you're still going to have to work with a licensed producer. This is the reality of your life. And I say that on a good thing because these licensed producers are going to be looking for a unique product. They're going to have the shelving agreements. They're going to have the distribution deals. They're going to have things such as marketing, and they're going to have the resources that you simply as a small-scale producer don't have and don't want to spend your time on. Do you want to spend time on your Instagram versus spending time on your plants? Right?
Yeah.
Only so many hours of the day. So I think anybody that's like, yeah, I'm going to have a micro production facility, I'm like, you don't get along with anybody.
Are you saying growers are reclusive? Is that what you're saying, or
growers are known recluse? Any grower with his grain of salt, like myself, like I'm kind of like I get out and do stuff. People see me, but they only see me when I want to be seen, right? Like, growers are reclusive for a reason, and I tell people it's part of the class, right? Make sure you got time. One of the first things I talk about is make sure you have time to do this. Like, I haven't been on a vacation. I can't leave my house.
That's right.
It's not time. You can't leave your house. Like, really? I'm in the middle of a crop. My buddy's like, I'm going to Vegas the moment I crop out. For 2 weeks, I'm coming back. I'm going to fire up the lights. I'm like, okay. But you got to plan things like that. I mean, that time you go away for the night is the time when your timers blow and they don't work and they don't turn off, or a pump fails and you flood your tables incorrectly, or like there's always something the moment you're not watching your growth. So I always talk about, time commitments, and people need to be aware of things like that. So I think if you're a personal grower, I'll gladly help you get there through my classes. I can't really help people that when I talk to them about micro production facilities because of my contract with the Kronos Group prohibits me from doing that, right? And I think most of the people I've talked to have been pretty cool, and I don't leave you hanging. So if you're legitimately trying to set up a micro production facility, I'm still kind of your guy to talk to. I have a network.
There's ways around these things where you're not giving them the information, but you can steer them in the direction that they need to be.
Right, but don't come to me with a rinky-dink budget. I will spend in one 20-minute phone call with you about $500,000 to $1 million, but you will have a licensed production facility at the end of it. Right, and people complain that's expensive, and to me, I'm like, well, a farm is like $350,000.
Yeah.
The mortgage on your farm, and you need to put a building on that.
Yeah.
You're going to need a security system. Yeah. It's, people complain about it's an expensive undertaking, and then I think about it, and I'm like, I don't know. If you were to open a restaurant in the city of Toronto,
how much does that cost?
Especially you're talking $500,000 to $1 million, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think the cannabis community, when I think sometimes we're insular and we don't know what we're not worldly enough, or oddly, we're not interacting with enough people to understand worldly things. I'm like, $500,000 to $1 million. That's, my bank's prepared to hand out loans for $300,000 to small businesses.
Difficult conceptualizing what the actual worth of $1 is.
Yeah.
So, and it's true. Average salaries today are much higher. Cost of living is much higher. It's much higher to go to dinner. It's much higher to go grocery shopping. It's much higher to open a business. It's much higher to open an LP. For sure, there are definite costs, but I think a lot of it, I think people can argue that it does get a bit outreaching for the average Joe to look to get into the business, and people are in the business are feeling shunned by a system that is now making them irrelevant and not being able to participate in something that they fought to have.
Well, I'm going to argue that I'm going to take a good chunk at this, and people get very angry, and I can be back on the show. One,
okay.
I can tell you, in all honesty, people fought. Really, bro? You fought for this? Mister, I opened a dispensary in 2015. Brother, if we're handing out by who fought for this, the first guy in line after Terry Parker, well, there'd be Alan Young would be first. John Conroy would be first. They started normal. Come on, brother. And these are most of the kids that are saying that are millennials. Oh man, the system's shutting me out. No, it's not. You're kind of irrelevant. I hate to break it to you. You're kind of irrelevant. And so anybody who feels shut out, I just, part of me thinks that maybe, I don't know, I don't want anybody to be shut out of this. I think there's opportunity for everybody, but at the same time, you have to be prepared to work with others. It's been a huge learning curve for me. I never worked in the corporate office space, that type of stuff before, so that's really new to me. And that's a bigger adjustment, right? You have to be prepared if you want it. If I want to do market research for what size joint is great, well, shouldn't have said that for work, but but there's the playoff. I mean, the playoff is, like, yeah, you gotta be a corporate guy, kind of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get to roll joints in the CEO's office so we can determine which size is the best to sell to people. That's fucking cool.
Oh, the fun chores of work. Oh, I get to roll joints in my office. Oh, I mean, it's such a task.
Right, to determine, and do market. Which size?
Research.
Well, no, and we are doing that market research,
That's
right?
right.
Like
It's market research.
half grams, 1 gram, rice paper, hemp paper, regular paper, cone. Like, there's a lot to think these things through. So if you want to participate in that, I think there's opportunity for cannabis people to do. And I've seen it. I people shit all over canopy growth, and I'm not allowed to because of my contract. But that said, I've seen job postings by Canopy on Indeed that said MMAR grower experience needed, right in the ad for hiring. Yeah.
Wow.
And I've seen them do that several times. And for people to say, oh, well, I mean, like, maybe you just don't have the skill set you think you have, and you've been doing well because it's a prohibited substance.
Okay.
Right? Like maybe you're doing well simply because it's prohibited, not because you're some sort of genius and business guy that, unless you went to the Rogers School of Business. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're coping with. Like, don't come to me and be like, yo, bro. I'm like, really, man? Like, you're doing well because it's illegal. If you didn't think, well, one, you probably didn't watch the Marijuana Zone, and you probably never listened to me when I was advocating. But if you didn't think Starbucks, or Second Cup, you didn't think Second Cup was going to open dispensaries and get involved in cannabis. Friends, you weren't even at the tip of the iceberg of people advocating for change.
Yeah.
Because I saw it coming like million miles away. We saw all of that coming. So for me to say, for people like, oh, and I understand people feeling left out. Definitely people feel left out. We need to fix that to an extent. But if you didn't think
you were ranting corporate cannabis back in the day on the Marijuana Zone. I visited Vapor Central several times during your shows. I was a guest on several of them, and I was a coach for a guest, a couple of them as well. So I'm very familiar with some of the history and the things that you had predicted for the future. And yeah, a lot of them are happening now. But the big thing is, I don't think even you thought at that time that you would be part of that, Matt.
I hope so. I mean, I wanted to be part of it. I mean, everybody that didn't think I wanted to be part of it would have been like, this is the best time. Like, we've accomplished so much to shut ourselves out. This is the next stage of advocacy for me, and the next stage of legalization is the marketing of cannabis and educating consumers and regular folks. I mean, cannabis is very mainstream these days. It has been for years. We've all heard me talk about that. But I always thought I'd be a part of it. I always knew there would be an opportunity for me somewhere. I always figured it'd be in media, but given that
I mean, in corporate, I like to be one of the corporate people. I mean, my husband made that transition, not in cannabis, but through, basically from being in the regular workforce and then becoming part of a corporate workforce. It's a different kind of a transition for a person without that corporate makeup, so to speak.
Oh, it's a big transition. And I think people don't recognize like the skill level that it's been taking me to get this far, 2 years. And you bring up your husband, and I have met, and I think we're pretty similar in our approach to life.
Yeah, neither really look corporate.
Like I work out of my house most of the time, but when I show up into our financial offices where I work out of at downtown Toronto, so like when I show up for the work with the financial people, and like just to put it in perspective, when they had the office, I was the only person in the office. Then they hired someone to work in to do the financial side of the office. right? And now it's like, holy geez, how many people work for this company? But, you know, it's neat going in there and being like, I'm just going to wear weed stuff today and show up to work. Like the one day I have to go into the office for meetings, like I'll wear my weed stuff for sure because they need that, right?
They do. They need that. You got to keep it real. And I am so pleased to hear that you are continuing that tradition in corporate cannabis Canada. That's awesome. I love that you wear a weed suit to work. That's fantastic.
Well, it's not the suit. I wear weed sweatpants. Screw the suit. It's the suit. We don't wear suits in our office. We're all in jeans and t-shirts. You know, we know something serious is up if Matt's in a dress pants and a dress shirt. They're like, oh,
right on.
Something's up today.
That's fantastic. So a lot's still going on. When we come back, we're going to go into our second break, and we'll come back. We'll continue our conversation with Matt Mernagh. I'm sure we'll be having a few more subjects that we haven't even talked about yet. Your past book, we talked about a little bit about the marijuana zone, perhaps what's in the future for Matt, and what's coming up next on the horizons for him when we come back in a few minutes. When we go into the commercial break tonight, our bumper music features the music of the Killing Time Band. You can find them at thekillingtimeband.com. Then after the commercials, I continue my talk with Matt, and you're listening tonight to the Pace Radio Show right here on lifestyleradio.net.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Let's burn another bowl out of my house to start a brand new day. The sun is shining. I am smiling and singing away.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
In 2017, the Canadian government announced that although recreational cannabis would be federally legal, its distribution and sale would be determined by individual provinces. Later that fall, the province of Ontario announced its proposed legal framework, that a subsidiary of the LCBO be the sole proprietor of cannabis in our province, essentially creating a one-party monopoly. This government-controlled monopoly could result in longer wait times, supply issues, and insufficient experience due to lack of proper consultation with the pre-existing industry. The provincial government believes this framework will restrict access to children and help eliminate the black market, but this proposed action will only push illicit suppliers further underground. Meanwhile, over the past 2 decades, there's been a growing industry of intelligent, savvy and responsible cannabis entrepreneurs who have been working hard to provide access and education around the medicinal, therapeutic, and recreational uses of cannabis. We are Sensible Ontario. We're not new, but we're excited to meet you. Visit our website now and donate to become a part of Making Sense.
If you'd like to learn more about Sensible Ontario, go to sensibleontario.ca.
True North Seed Bank has been Canada's most diverse cannabis seed source for years, and now we are proud to announce our brand new storefront right beside our friends at Medicine Wheel Natural Healing. All of the same freebies and sales we offer on our website will apply in the storefront as well. Join us for our grand opening at 8986 County Road 45 in Alderville on April 20th. The first 100 customers will receive a gift bag, including a Canuck puck with their purchase. There will be 420 burgers and 420 hot dogs for free, and lots of other fun giveaways. There will also be live music by Cale Crow, and all kicks off at noon. Take this perfect opportunity to celebrate 420 by visiting the new True North Seed Bank storefront in Alderville and get ready for spring while celebrating with us.
We sing at night, 'cause music is our life. The jam is tight, it is alright. You can only achieve what you choose to be.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning into the program. We are being broadcasted live tonight from lifestyleradio.net. You can also catch us on our sister site at 420radio.ca. Tonight on the program, I'm joined by my guest, Matt Mernagh, formerly of the Marijuana Zone. He is an educator and a growth specialist that definitely has had his fingers in a lot of different cannabis aspects over the years and is a very knowledgeable man about just about anything you want to know that's got to do with the cannabis industry, growing or otherwise, including activism, advocacy, and so much more. So thank you so much for spending the evening with us tonight, Matt. I really, really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We always have so many subjects that we want to touch on and never ever manage to get to all of them, but we're definitely going to try. We were talking a little bit about different aspects of the new cannabis legalization coming up, and some of the corporations that have got their fingers and toes getting ready and positioning themselves strategically in the market. What do you think about the evolution of your predictions of places like Second Cup and Shoppers Drug Mart?
Well, I think it would start at Shoppers Drug Mart. Or Shoppers Drug Mart. I guess I would start at. I'm not sure about what's going on there, so I don't want to speculate too much. Again, my work life may cross over into that, so I'm keeping an eye on it. I just, to me, I don't know. I prefer my medical cannabis mailed to me to my house. I get everything shipped to my house. I try and order groceries that get shipped to my that's the way the world's moving. It's hard for me. You're going to argue against mail order. You're arguing against the business of Amazon, right?
Yeah. A lot of people have evolved into that way. Everything we do, we shop online. It gets delivered to our door when we're home, when it's convenient for us. That seems to be the wave of the future for most, in especially in big cities.
Right. So that part, really, you can put it in Shoppers versus it coming directly to my house. Pretty cool. I like that idea. Is for medical patients. I still think medical patients deserve to have shipped to their home. I don't think they need to go to Shoppers. Personally, that's definitely personally. I know they're going. They're probably picking up prescriptions and stuff there. So I don't know. I'm not even sure how it's all going to work. That from that perspective. The ones that make me most interested now, though, is because it can happen is retail. And the retail most fascinates me right now is Alberta, because there is a framework in place. If you're interested in opening a retail cannabis shop, and that's been your lifelong goal, Matt, as some people tell me in Ontario, Move to fucking Alberta, brother.
Yeah,
Because-
Alberta is the place to be as far as private industry goes, and the rules and regs that the platform that they're coming out with is extremely attractive, isn't it?
Very attractive, right down to the municipal level. I've watched it flow through from the provincial level down to the municipal level, and I watched the Calgary City Council. It was a very long city council meeting on property setbacks. The premier of our province here in Ontario says 450 meters from a school is not far enough. She's clearly smoking pot because that's crazy. Right? It's absolutely crazy. A 450-meter setback. I was able to point out strip clubs around high schools that are at 240 meters away, right?
Yeah.
You're concerned about the weed place, 450 meters. What about that strip club, 240? Like, no offense there, Premier. But let's back to Alberta. Like, if you really want to open, and it's your lifelong dream, it's Alberta. I mean, I watched Calgary's debate. Something like 4.5% is excluded. Not, right, so you know what I'm saying? 4.5% of their retail space that has been already zoned is excluded from the legal licensing regime.
Now
There's
that's
no
reasonable.
reason.
Yeah.
Right? There's no reason the dispensary owner is operating in Calgary. To me, like, really, it just means you can't jump through government hoop. So it's like, literally, to me, like, you couldn't figure it out. Like, I have looked at things right down to, like, you know, do I have to hire a lawyer to get my securities or clearance from Health Canada because they won't issue it to me? How do I do that? Oh, I can do that, you know? So there's opportunity. Edmonton looks like they'll probably do the same thing. And it's weird. Alberta.
I know. Who'd have thought it, right? I mean, we thought this was going to be the total opposite. When they came out with their platform, my jaw hit the ground. I'm going, this is Alberta? Is this a typo? Is this real? I had to give my head a shake.
Well, it's also a new Democrat government, so, you know, and just if you really look at the provincial law, because of course I have, there's a financial, they call them financial firewalls. There's things in the legislation that prevents an LP from owning one.
Yeah.
I don't know if people aren't aware of that. So that to me was very smart on their part. They knew what they were doing. The same thing with the BC one. They knew what they were doing when they wrote that. So again, like, if your dream is to do this, the opportunities are there. It's just, you're going to have to pursue it. It's not just going to get handed to you. It's not going to be like, hey, I only have to work a couple hours a day. No.
So, I mean, we are developing a national policy across the board, which is far different than our counterparts to the south in the United States. So we will have protections under the federal law. But as we're discussing, each province is vastly different on opportunities for people and what they're going to do. So depending on where you live is going to dictate how much involvement you're going to be able to have. If you want to pursue involvement outside of that, it means picking up stakes and going to a different province.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could. I mean, and I think if you're not prepared to, like, if that's your dream you should be able to. My dream was, like, I did my court challenge through the court, right? It wasn't necessarily a dream, but it was a goal once that happened. And I sacrificed everything. I sacrificed relationships and planning my personal life for 5 years. Like, had to put all that on the home. Like, if you're not prepared to sacrifice for this, you're definitely not ready. Like, if you're not prepared to work 18 hours a day to set up your business, you're probably not ready. But it's right down to, you know, provincial, municipal. I mean, there's at least in some provinces, we're looking very promising. And I think if you wanted to jump in and do it right away, you should go for it. I mean, I talked to a guy in Newfoundland, and Newfoundland's it's privatized, but they're having limited number of licenses because of their scarce population. And this guy was an all-out stoner I talked to, and he had a head shop, and he was like, I'm going for it. And I was like, you think you'll get it? And he's like, I don't think anybody else in my community postal code is going to apply for it.
So why wouldn't he get it then, right?
Right. And he had a business plan. Like it was a very professional business plan. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, like if you get your license, I will gladly sell you also what you need, right? Like we can do business with you. But people need to be aware that guy made a presentation. He did what he had to do, right?
Right. You took the steps.
And you don't see a lot of that. And I'm prepared to help my closer friends make some of the steps, but it's tough. I recognize it's tough. And some people will be kind of left behind. That said, I would hope the majority of people aren't. Yeah, you're going to have to compete against the second cup if you're opening a retail business. But guess what? Did you honestly think that wasn't going to happen?
Yeah. Now, in a case like in Ontario, is there space for, say rural? I'm going to use Timmins as my base here, since that's where I am. I'm in rural northern Ontario. There's nothing up here. We have one head shop within a 400-mile radius, and that's it. There's nothing else. So say somebody opened up a lounge type situation, which is apparently going to be allowable under the new laws in Ontario. They're looking at allowing lounges. So if somebody gets enterprising and opens a lounge in Northern Ontario, could they then work with LPs to supply product within that lounge in the future?
Well, I mean, I would think we're jumping into lots and lots of speculation. Let's jump through the first hoop, which is the regulation of bring your own vapor lounges, which is something I've been involved with for a very, very long time. I made the first submission to the Ontario government in 2015, the day after my very last 420. Just to put it in perspective, 20,000 people show up to 420. My girlfriend showed up to my presentation to committee when I made it at the Ontario legislature, along with the CEO of the company I worked for. And with their support, we submitted that vapor lounges should be allowed. Like, it's ridiculous that they're not. You mentioned that they're considering it. The Ontario government just did a call for submissions on vapor lounges, and they're looking at, doing it. I know a lot of people submitted and the government did a survey. I know a lot of people filled out the survey and wrote it in. I wrote a submission. So I wrote an extensive submission, I think about 2,000 words. It came into an affidavit response to the government because they asked for some detail from me. And then I asked my friend Paul Lewin to submit beside me. So the two of us did a co-submission. And Paul Lewin, lawyer, his submission was, I believe that the two of us believe that there is constitutional issues that banning lounges would bring up. And then we list a bunch. So we're hopeful that the government doesn't call. It's not a bluff. Like I told them, I'm prepared. I will go to court and I will fight on behalf of lounges because that's how much I believe in them. I've lined up the legal counsel to do so. We've told the Ontario government as such, we'll fight you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge proponent of them as well. I mean, myself as a former Torontonian, I was born and raised in downtown Toronto, as everybody knows. That's where I'm originally from. I'm a northern girl now, have been for well over 15 years, so I'm a little bit northernized now. So I understand both sides of the coin. I still come to Toronto. I still have friends there. I still have family there. I visit the city frequently. When I come to the city, I stay in hotels. Hotels do not like consumption in their rooms. They frown on it quite frequently. You can be, hassled for consumption, even if you are a patient. Lounges are a much needed thing in the city of Toronto for any patient that comes and visits. Once you allow legalization of this substance, then what do you do with people that are visiting the city if there's nowhere to consume it?
Right, and they're running into that. You're going to have condos that are probably going to try and ban marijuana consumption in condo residents, and I suspect they can do that to an extent. They might be able to say you can only vaporize. So you're going to see it at the condo board level. You're going to see some rules put into play. So I would like to see lounges across Ontario flourish. I think it's a great way for the Ontario government to say, yeah, we've followed what we were always going to do, which was, a government-run model, a government-run store. I think if you read the history of the LCBO, which I've had the joy of doing, and I would recommend it to anybody, there's a book on the history of the LCBO. It's a textbook. That's how great a subject it is. It's not light reading. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But I went through that, and I understand the history of the LCBO and the history of wanting to control booze. And we're going to see that with cannabis. We're always going to see that in Ontario.
I just hope that the evolution of this doesn't take as long as it did with the LCBO and with alcohol. I mean, as a 40-year plus consumer of cannabis, to the thought of it taking the same length of time it took for it to evolve in the liquor stores. I mean, I remember as a kid going to the liquor store, with my grandparents and stuff when Grandpa was going to get his weekly shipment in, and you went in and it was a bulletin board, and it was a sandwich board style, upside down triangle, and it was just, a whole bunch of writing, and it would say, Smirnoff's, Mickey, you got a Mickey size and the different size, and it would give you a code number, and a little piece of paper was on the thing with some little pencils, and you had to write the code number and how many bottles. You gave that to the guy behind the counter, and he gave you back a brown paper bag with your bottle in it. You didn't see bottles anywhere. I mean, the names of the bottles weren't even on the tabs of paper that you handed in. It was a code.
Right, because you didn't want to have an influence on someone else's purchasing habits.
It's
hate to break it. It's not going to be chemist. It's not going to be that bad.
Please don't tell me.
They've updated it to Shopify and iPad screen, and you'll be able to just punch it right on a computer screen. Right.
But hopefully we evolve to the point where the purse strings on the control issue over this product evolve at a much greater pace than one tiny step every 10 years.
Right. And I think we're going to have, if anybody thinks that it's not going to, it will. And that's our hope. And I mean, your position is great. You've seen alcohol and the control around alcohol you bring up the exact story I was going to tell. And funnily enough, you lived through it.
Yeah, we lived through it. Yes.
But that said, I mean, we're gonna to tie it back through lounges. I mean, we definitely could see that evolution that you point out. That maybe lounges will be single serve places where I can buy a joint to smoke there, right? And I can't leave with the booze, but I can smoke weed there. That I can see happening, and I can see people having the lounge owner buying it whole, buying it from the LC, just like the bar does now. I can see.
Our current liquor bar scene that we have now, as far as alcohol consumption, I mean, that all started, with the underground speakeasy, which is much similar to some of the lounges that are out there today. So
right,
we're already seeing it.
The LC went out and licensed hotel drinking spaces, basically. And they were pretty boring, to tell you the truth, back then, too.
Yeah.
So that's the evolution of it. And whether or not we see that here in terms of a lounge, I would hope so. I think people would like to. I think lounges can make money not having to. Again, if that's your goal and you're in school right now or have an opportunity to go back to school, learn retail management, learn supply management, learn inventory management, right? That's that's what it all is. I hate to break it to you, it's not smoking weed all day. It's, do I have enough product in my store? And if the inspector comes in, is all my books up to date?
Yeah.
Right? I hate to break it to people. That's the fun of the job, will be making sure your books are up to date and everything's the way it should be if the liquor inspector comes in, or the bud inspector, whatever the case may be.
That's right.
So
business is business. It doesn't matter what you're selling or what you're into. Product in the end, it doesn't matter. It's all business, right?
And it's all going to be inventory management and retail management. You can take a class or a course on that, right? And we're going to see that. We're going to see the guys from these other industries that smoke pot at home at night decide, I'm going to retire, I'm going to quit my day job, and I'm going to open a weed shop. And by the way, I'm the vice president of, retail sales for whatever big company. So of course you're a genius at it, right? And you're going to have to compete against that guy. So if you spent this last couple of years smoking a lot of weed, thinking you're an advocate and you were just smoking a lot of weed, guess what, bro? Life's going to pass you by, because it was never designed to be like, that guy over there, he's just going to be allowed to sell drugs.
That wasn't the goal.
It wasn't the goal at all.
Right. Now, speaking, I'm going to roll this over because we're getting short on time, and I got a couple other subjects I want to make sure we cram in here. So speaking of goals for upcoming election, Ontario, we've got a big one coming up. Cannabis, big issue in this upcoming election.
I disagree. I'm going to start right there. I'll disagree.
Matt Mernagh, I can always count on you to disagree.
I think I think they have a plan. I mean, Dougie Ford's already, if anybody's talking about weed, on the campaign trail, it's to distract the media. Doug Ford did that right out of the gate. He came out on his very first day of being leader of the PC party to try and distract them by saying, I'm thinking about privatizing it, right? Oh, big story. Second, his first thing he ever said was, I'm going to privatize weed. And then he backtracked, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people want it to be. I think weed people especially think, because of their own insular world, it's going to be about this. I'm like, I hate to break it to you. It's not.
Not a big election issue for the rest of the province, just for a certain group of special interests?
Yeah, it's a special interest, certain groups of special interests for sure. I think you're going to see a big fight over, I'd rather hear someone say, I'm voting for a $15 minimum wage, and if you really wanted to break it down, you would. If you're voting for weed, you would have to vote for the Liberal Party based on their record for cannabis.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Sure. Well, I could point out Kathleen Wynne allowed nurse practitioners, the only province in Canada, nurse practitioners are allowed to sign your ACMPR paperwork. That's huge, right? You tell me that's not access? She didn't have to do that. They intentionally, they did it. You didn't see a whole bunch of weed people cheer for that.
That's true. But as you pointed out, weed is not the only issue in this provincial election. Can you allow something like allowing nurse practitioners to sign your ACMPR, override the billions in taxpayers' dollars losses over the hydro debacle?
Right. So there's the hydro issue that she inherited from her predecessor, Dalton McGuinty. That's a disaster, obviously, on her front. I'm not speaking in favor of the Liberals. I'll be voting and campaigning for my friend Merritt Stiles and the New Democrats.
There you go. All right.
Anybody who, right. But anybody that's like, the PCs, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when Doug Ford when he spoke out as a proponent and saying what he said about privatization, to me, that spoke all of Doug Ford. it didn't speak of PC party line. And I think as soon as he said it, his party rained on him and said, are you fucking crazy? You've got to toe PC party line. We don't give a shit what you think. So you need to retract and you need to do it now. And then his next campaign speech, he came out with PC party line.
Right, he's doing more of that, but he also is designed to throw off the media from covering him, right? A lot of people use marijuana as a smokescreen. I think we need to look at that. Justin Trudeau did, for sure. Wrote it. But I mean, they look at their platform. It said to regulate to keep cannabis out of the hands of kids.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't say Mark Emery gets to open a fucking weed shop. Didn't say that anywhere.
It didn't say that anywhere, did it?
No. You know, it didn't say Chuck Rafisi gets to open a weed shop either. But
no,
you know, I don't think Chuck was relying on that, right? But it definitely said we're going to regulate cannabis to keep it out of the hands of minors and children.
Yeah. That's been the party.
You know, and I could point out that it's the legislation's bad, but it impacts my career as a marketer. But provincially, you know, we're in this election. Is the OCS a bad thing? I don't know. You got the marijuana community versus OPSU. Like, no offense to weed people. How many people do you have on your email list compared to the 40,000 members OPSU has?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know who, if I was a politician, I know what group I would be calling to get votes from.
That's right.
So the people organized well enough to get your voters to the polls. And it's been my issue with weed people for a decade. Get your people out. Get an email list going. Let's get a list going. Let's get people organized to get to polls. Tell them not just to who to vote for.
We all know all too well how difficult it is to get cannabis consumers motivated and off their asses to do just about anything.
Right. So, I mean, I don't deny that there is a small segment that does it, but there's really, like, there's 40,000 OPSU workers, friends.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you. Like, as a politician person, like, I know what Kathleen Wynn's going to do. She's going to call Smokey over at OPSU and be like, yo, your people are voting for me. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I hate that. Like, can the weed people, like...
We can't get those numbers. We don't have... people aren't motivated enough to come en masse under one banner to get anything done, and that's been our biggest issue from the start. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here because we're almost out of time, and there is something I want to get back to. I know it's going to have some stuff to do with my shout out as well, so I'm going to bring it back to the beginning of the show and talk a little bit one more time about 420, because of course right now it is 418. So we've got it with 420 being 2 days away. We got to talk a little bit more at the end of the show right now about our upcoming 420 events. The Lifestyle Radio Network will be live on the air from coast to coast, possibly, I believe, from Vancouver to Toronto, including Northern Ontario. One and only Timmins, Ontario, first annual 420 will also be joining them live on the air on the 420 Roadshow. Matt, you mentioned that you don't really lead the marches or anything anymore. You do kind of mill about within the community on 420 and celebrate alongside the rest of us in your own way in the last couple of years. I believe I heard a little birdie tell me something about some very special plans possibly in action around lunchtime this year on 420 taking place at Vapor Central. Something about some antique cannabis?
Well, I wouldn't call it antique. I prefer the word vintage.
Vintage cannabis?
Vintage. I'll be at Vapor Central probably about noonish, I think is my plan. Probably make my way to Hotbox. I'll probably walk by Nathan Phillips Square to see some friends there. So I'll just be doing some rounds of socializing. About a year and a half ago, I began to keep cannabis in bell jars. I mean, you know, the bottle jars, the really nice jars. We've been jarring it up after it was cured to determine if it was going to get better as it aged.
Okay, so a little experiment in the process going on.
Right, because I've never met anybody that's ever said, yeah, I've cured this for a year. I've cured, this hash for 2 years. Like, I've never met anybody that says these things to me. So that drew my curiosity. I was speaking with our master grower who has a PhD in plants. Like, the man's a genius. Like, we talk about sedating, and I'm not talking cannabis plants, I'm talking about plants. Plants have a nervous system, and you can sedate them. I had no idea. You can hit them with some laughing gas.
Wow.
Right? Right. And I was like, oh, whoa, that's cool. And so, some of the talks we get into are intense, right? So one of them came around is to, what happens when cannabis ages for a year? So I did it on my own. If I was truly sciencey, I would have done a test. I would have tested all my terpenes in advance, figured out what terpenes I had and the volume of them. And then a year later, I would have opened the jar, sent off some of it to be tested, and then smoked it. I did not do that part, so there is no testing other than me smoking it.
Okay.
I'm saying, yeah, that's really good. But that's how you would do it science, right? You could do it scientifically. How it also comes up, they've discovered cannabis that's about 2,500 years old, cultivated cannabis that's 2,500 years old, just below the permafrost. So it was perfect, but it didn't degrade, right?
Right.
Then they found it in a tomb. You can read these stories. Just type in 2,500-year-old cannabis into Google. You can read it. But I pulled up the study. So after I read, hey, there's the news report. Who did this? Who did the study? So I read the study. And in the study, they were able to point out in photographs degraded trichome heads that were 2,500 years old.
2,500-year trichome heads. Now that is fucking wild. Now yours isn't quite that old. The stuff that you'll be testing at Vapor Central is just over a year old, and you're going to pop the cork on that, so to speak, and have a look-see at what it looks like all these months later, and whether or not it's degraded.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think the idea, imagine, this is where my head's at. I mean, people can, I think people whoa, that's neat. My head's already whoa, I want to be able to retail sell this if it turns out to be awesome.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So very cool, very cool. So we'll be looking to hear about the results of that. We'll have to have you back on a future show to find out how it all turned out.
Well, I hope to hang out with I hope to run into the lifestyle team over at the Hotbox, and maybe we'll do some testing live on air on Friday.
Oh, that'll be awesome. That'll be fantastic. Yep, Al will be all set up at the Hotbox, and we look forward to having you join on the air. I'll be listening live and tuning in from Timmins and anxiously awaiting to hear all the news. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Matt. It's wonderful to talk to you as always. You're so knowledgeable on so many things, always controversial for sure, with a difference of opinion than many in the industry and beyond. Many people agree with you 100%, and many people are on the other side of the fence, and many in the middle. So it's most definitely always an interesting conversation when you're on the show, for sure. Thanks for coming on. At this time, I'd like to invite you to give a shout out to whatever you'd like to give a shout out to.
Oh, join me at the Hotbox, homegrown for the weed enders, May, June, July, in August. Check out the Hotbox homegrown website for details of the first one's second weekend in May, just after the Global Marijuana March, and they run once a month in the summer. Plan your vacation to Toronto, and let's have a good time together.
Sounds awesome. I'm going to have to absolutely get more details about that and be checking my calendar and see if I can make that work for myself this year. That sounds like a whole lot of fun. For me this week, of course, my shout out once again, I'm going to mention the 420 Timmins first annual event taking place in Timmins, Ontario at the Matagami River boat launch right across from the dog park. 2:30 sharp start. First 100 guests that come and see us at the No Sir booth booth will get a pretty nice swag bag with some goodies inside. So come and check it out at the first annual event, Matagami River Boat Launch, just off Algonquin in Timmins. So we'll hope to see you all out there this week on Friday. We'll be joining Al Rapp and the gang, as well as Alicia Dubacour from the Pace Radio Show, who will be broadcasting live on Lifestyle Network for the 420 Roadshow for a coast-to-coast 420 Roadshow edition, where we'll all be letting you know what's going on at our particular events. Thank you go out to our sponsors tonight, the friendly folks at CC Nexus. They can be found at ccnexus.global. And a big thank goes out to Canadays for allowing the Pace Radio Show to educate the public from the front window of their shop, where Al Graham is usually sitting in, but he's away on vacation. And of course, thanks to Al Rapp, the producer at lifestyleradio.net. And a big thank you to you, our guest, Matt Mernagh, for joining us on the show. Always a big thanks to you, our listeners. And we will see you when we tune back into the program next week with Alicia, joins us on lifestylenetwork.net. Good night, all.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.